we've lost the sense of honoring God. Not only the new generation, even the old generation, we've lost the ability to honor God. Repeat after me, honor. Honor. Listen to what Paul says in Romans 14:8. It says, Paul says, if we live, it is to honor the Lord. If we live, it is to honor the Lord. And if we die, it's to honor the Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. So honor is what impels us to live or die for God. It's honor. It's not being diligent. It's not being Colombian. It's not being Dominican. It's not being American. It's not that you were raised in this family or the other. In the end, honoring God is what is going to determine if you live or die for God. So if we don't understand that, we're going to try to manipulate people to make them serve in church, to make them, give offerings and tithes. Because when you intimidate people, they do things. So in many churches, what we do is we intimidate people and we manipulate people and we make them feel in condemnation or that God is not going to bless them if they don't do things. But in this church, we believe in a God that loves us unconditionally. God loved you before you came to church. God loved you before you changed. And we've learned, like a month ago, we gave a teaching called Irrational Love. So we believe in a God that loves us irrationally. But loving God and honoring God is not the same thing. So when Paul says, if we live, it is to honor God, that word live has to do with commitment. Live is commitment. It means my life and my mind and my decisions revolve around doing what honors God, what pleases God, what advances God's dream. I live to honor God. I'm committed to honoring Him with my life, my actions, my thoughts, my feelings, my decisions. So if you want commitment, you need to honor God. There's no true commitment without honor. And then when it says, and we die to honor God, to die means to sacrifice. A person that dies for God is a person that is willing to renounce to what he wants or she wants to do what God wants. Renounce to my time, renounce to sleeping a little bit more, renounce to doing some things that I like, renounce to what I think is important to me so I can do what is important to God. So if we don't have honor, we don't have commitment. If we don't have honor, we cannot have sacrifice. So the situation, the root of the problem nowadays is that the church has lost its capacity to honor God. So you know what we have to do since there's no honor? We have to do a lot of stuff to see if people want to come because they want to have a good time. Yes, they receive a good word. Yes, they believe they're edified. But in the end, they're not coming to honor God. They're coming because it is a good experience. That's why it's called out an experience. And if we don't give them a good experience, they don't come. Because the only thing that is going to make you come, even if it's a bad experience, is honor. Honor is the only thing that can make people commit and sacrifice their lives to God and to God's work. If we want to go to the next level, we need next level honor because God has shown us that He's taking Ekklesia Miami to another level. Listen, what we're doing for this English experience is a super step of faith because we're moving this to another place completely different because we believe this is not the place for this crowd. And that means double rent. That means more work for the leaders. That means because this is going to be moved to 6 p.m. And some say, Pastor, I love 12 p.m. Yes, but you see, if you honor God, you're going to do what God is saying we have to do for the benefit of God's purposes. But nowadays, since there's no honor, we're thinking about it's not convenient for me. It's not convenient for me. No. The question if it's convenient for you is if it is convenient to God's purposes. And we really believe that God is taking this church to another level. That's why this series is called Next Level. But you want to go to a next level, you need next level honor. You cannot expect next level blessing, next level purpose if you don't have next level honor. So what does it mean to honor? Only God could have given me this. So honor in the Bible has two main definitions. The first one is to value. Repeat after me, to value. You see, to value, to esteem, to value. Honor means to value. What is that? Value means to assign a price. For example, let's say you're going to do a garage sale. And you're going to sell, you need some money. You want to sell some stuff you have there. You don't have more space. Like if you're a woman, like my wife, you have to make space for more stuff. Okay? So my wife loves order. She loves to organize things. And she's always trying to organize me. Okay? And so let's say we're going to do a garage sale. And there's this horrible adorno. ¿Cómo se dice un adorno? Ornament, like a decoration, like one of these things that un jar que tú pones, one of those jars, like horrible jars or statue, a horrible thing like that. And it's been like in the family for 2 generations. You hate that thing. But your wife loves that horrible angel. So the man, he's loving this garage sale because at last he's going to get rid of that thing. Un adefesio, diría en español. So, you see, if you are going to do a garage sale and you want to sell stuff, the first thing you have to do is you have to assign a price for the articles you're going to sell. You cannot just put the articles there. So you need to choose the articles and then you need to set a price, assign a price. You need to value, esteem the article. So if the man hates that adorno, he's going to say, you know what, honey, sell it for $1. If somebody gives you like $1 or something, just give it away, But maybe the woman says, no, honey, I love this thing. Let's sell it for $150. The guy's like, no, nobody's going to buy that. You know why? Because humans, we tend to price things depending on how important they are to us. So if the man doesn't like that thing, he's going to give it away for $1. That's the value I'm going to assign to that thing. But if it's important to the woman, she's going to assign a higher value to it. So to honor means to set a price. So my question is, what value does God have for you? What price have you assigned to God? Because depending on the price you give to God, depends the honor you will give to God. So the value God has for us will determine our honor towards Him. So, you see, there's a program in TV called Antique Roadshow. It's a program for all people, and I love it. I mean, it's super, people think it's boring. I love that program. So there's like a lot of old people, and they have these people that appreciate things. This is appreciate? Put price to things. Like there are people that are experts in art, experts in cars, experts in paintings. And so people, they just take, things that they have at home that's been there in garage for I don't know how many years, and they bring it to that place, and they bring an expert in that article, that type of art. So the person sometimes thinks that article may be worth $5 because he bought it in a flea market for $5. And this guy, the expert, says, no, that is worth $128,000. I've seen things like that. Yeah. So the guy would, he came with the thing like, $5. And then the expert goes, it's $135,000. Because he didn't know the real price. Or maybe he thought it was worth $10,000 and the guy says, that's $2. So the Bible or God couldn't leave it to us to set His price. Because we don't have the ability to value God. So the Bible defines what is God's value. Because to honor is to value. To value is to set a price. And the price you give to God means the value He has for you, and it will mean the honor you will give Him. So it will mean the commitment and the sacrifice we will be able to give to Him. So what is God's value biblically? Who wants to know? Okay, I'm going to preach about that next Sunday. No, I'm not going to say it right now. Okay, so this is God's value. It's in Philippians 2:9. It says, therefore, God elevated him, Jesus, listen to this, to the place of highest honor. That is Jesus' value. He elevated him to the place of, repeat after me, highest honor. Highest honor, and gave him the name above all other names. So this is very interesting. The Bible gave Jesus, God, its value, his value, but it didn't give Jesus a numerical value. The Bible gives Jesus a positional value. A value that, to understand it, is given in reference to other things. Why? Because God knows about inflation. Why? Because God knows about how vulnerable, how fragile we are, how we change our minds. God knows all that. So he had to choose a value that could never threaten the value. Because sometimes in life, some things are more valuable to us, some things are less valuable to us, because a car that would be bought for $200 in 1950, now it's worth $40,000. So if God would have given Jesus a numerical value, sooner or later, something would have taken a value higher than Jesus. So what did God do? God placed on Jesus a value that is positional in reference to other things, so that never in the history of humankind there can be nothing or no one that can have an equal or higher value than Jesus. So he didn't say Jesus is $2 million. So he gave Jesus a value of $5 billion. I don't know if you remember Austin Powers. $1 million. Or $6 million. ¿Cuánto que dice? 6 million, 1 million. And then because the guy had been like frozen for I don't know how many years, and he comes to the future, and now he thinks like $1 million is like around money, and they go like, he's asking the government of the United States like $1 million for a ransom. And the guy was like, so then he goes like $1 billion. You see, what is worth today 1 million? If you think 1 billion is a lot, maybe in 20 years we're going to speak about 1 trillion. So God said, I cannot give my son a number or a set price. I'm going to give him a value that can only be compared towards other things. So there's never nothing or no one of higher or equal value to him. So his value is the place of highest honor, a name above all other names. So it doesn't matter what you find in life. Jesus has highest honor. No matter what is the most important thing to you, Jesus will always be the highest. So you know that it's determined in reference in comparison to other things. So I have here 3 pictures. I'm going to show you a picture of a watch. It's a Casio Digital Vintage. You say, wow, with that name, it must be incredible. This wristwatch is $55. Casio Digital Vintage. Basically, it's a piece of trash. But it's water resistant. Illuminator. It has a button that you do like this, and it has a light. Wow. So maybe to a person that doesn't have money, he goes like, wow, that's a beautiful watch. You see, but there's another watch that I have here. This one is $55. How much? Now look at this one, the Rolex. This is the Rolex Presidential Oyster Perpetual. This Rolex is $55,000. So you can buy 1,000 Casio Digital Vintage with this one. So when you look at the other watch and now you see this one, in reference, you say, you see, maybe the other one for you was incredible. Now you see this one, you say, that's trash. This is beautiful. Because now you have something to compare it to. But then I can show you another one. This watch, the Graph Diamonds Hallucination, and it's a hallucination because you'll never see it with your own eyes. It's only $55 million. And it's right now the most expensive watch in the world. So you see, if you have a Rolex Presidential Oyster Perpetual for $55,000, and maybe you go to a Panera Bread, o te vas al Palacio de los Jugos, and you go with your Rolex, maybe you're going to feel like you are the president because you have the Rolex Presidential. Because you think you have the watch with the highest value. But maybe if you go to another place with people that have these type of watches, now you don't feel so great. So God gave Jesus a value that is in reference to other things. So in reference to anything that has been created or will be created or will exist or has existed, Jesus has the highest honor. Nothing compares to his value. So if Christ doesn't have the highest honor in your heart, there will always be something competing for his honor. If Christ doesn't have the highest honor in your heart, something will always be competing with his honor. I'm trying not to get ahead of me. God's place in your heart shouldn't be determined. Listen to this. God's place in your heart doesn't determine his value. Listen to this. God's place in your heart doesn't determine his value. In fact, it's the opposite. God's value should determine his place in your heart. So that's why God placed on Jesus an objective value that is outside of what I think of God. God set a price, a value on Jesus that is a reference outside of me, because if God would have allowed me to set a value on Jesus, who knows what value I would have given him. So God says, I need to set the value for Jesus outside of you. I don't need your opinion. This is Jesus' value. He has the place of highest honor. So when you understand that and you accept that is the truth, the place of highest honor, then in your heart, you place him in the right place. What is the place? The place of highest honor. So your priorities, the way you think, the way you decide, Jesus always has to be first, higher than everything else. So the place Jesus has in your heart doesn't determine his value. His value should determine the place he has in your heart. So the question once again, what value does God have for you? Does he really have the place of highest honor in your heart? Okay, this was the romantic part. So I have an example here. I'm going to give it to you. The second definition of honor, the first one is to price, to set a price. The second one is to fix a value. Repeat after me, to fix a value. Oh, it's very important. To fix a value. What does that mean? Honor is a fixed value. It doesn't change or vary. It always remains the same. Honor doesn't depend on life situations, on how we feel, because it is not defined by our subjective appreciations, but by God's objective, eternal, and never-ending worth. So to fix a value means that you set a value that will never change. So your value of God doesn't change depending on how you feel, how you woke up this morning, or how life is going. Because his value is out of me. It's his value eternally. So James 1:17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. So God doesn't change. God doesn't vary. If God doesn't change, his value doesn't change. And if his value doesn't change, my honor towards him shouldn't change either. Because we worship a never-ending, never-changing God. My God doesn't change. Maybe it's my perception of him that changes. Why? Because people have a tendency to put a price to God the way the world sets its prices. How does the world set its prices? By a law called the law of supply and demand. I don't know if you heard of this before, but people that are in economy, I have CPAs here. The law of supply and demand. What does it say? Well, if there is more supply, the price is going to go down. If there is more demand, the price is going to go up. For example, gas. Right now, the price of gas is going down because there are 2 or 3 countries in the Middle East that they just open their gas, their crude oil wells. So right now there is more gas. The Arab countries are producing and offering more gas. So the supply went up. The moment the supply goes up, immediately the price goes down because there's more oil available. So the gas stations and the oil companies have to compete with one another to sell the oil they have, because since they have a lot of oil, and people can buy oil and choose wherever they want to buy oil, I have to lower my price so I can beat the competition. So the more gas there is, the more supply, the lower the price. But when there is a hurricane, and the supply begins to come down, and you see these long lines at the gas stations, and not only that, you know that you need oil to survive the hurricane. So the supply goes down and the need goes up and the demand goes up and people begin to get desperate. So you know what gas stations do? What is it that the name they have for when they begin to gouging? They begin gouging. So instead of $4 or $2.50 a gallon, they begin selling for $6 a gallon. And you know why you pay it, even though you know that's unfair? Because you need the gas to survive. And that's what we do with God. I need to listen to this. The value people give to Jesus depends on how much they think they need him. The value people give to Jesus depends on how much they think they need him. When people are in a crisis that they can't solve by themselves, and they really need Jesus, they assign to him a high value. Because I know that he's the only one capable of getting me through that crisis. So at that moment, I don't have, you see, honor is a fixed value that doesn't change. But we don't put fixed values, we put variable values because we value depending on supply and demand and how much I need. So at this moment, I really need Jesus. So his price in my heart begins to go up. So in my life, listen to this. In my life, I have things that are very valuable. And those things have a set price. How much I sleep, how much I have fun. And I have things that I do have fixed their value, but then God is here. But the moment I really need God in a crisis, this doesn't come down. I want to sleep too much. No. But God his value begins to go up. He begins to go up. He begins to go up. So what happens? At that moment, suddenly, God is more important than 2 more hours of sleep. So you come Sundays to church. Suddenly, God becomes more valuable than the ball game. So now Tuesdays you go to an e-group. Suddenly, God becomes more important than that second or that third job. You know you cannot handle your finances by yourself. And then one day you say, I'm going to tithe. Suddenly God is so valuable that you promise him everything. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to live for you. Because you see him so high. You've esteemed him so highly. That now everything that you thought was very important doesn't seem so important. So you promise everything. You say, it doesn't hurt me to give him money. It doesn't hurt me to serve in church. It doesn't hurt me to go to church Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday. No, because now God is so valuable. But the moment God brings you through the crisis, his value begins to go down again. And the other values that were fixed are there, but you just couldn't see them because God was so high in the crisis. But then God begins to go down, and then suddenly sleep is there. And baseball is there. And then after the crisis, his value goes down, and then you don't come to church. And you forget every promise you gave. So the pastors begin to manipulate. And we begin to shout, no, strong. Ah! And you see the artists and the band, ah! Because we're trying to push you to do something you really don't value. And you don't fulfill your promises. So that's why I brought this. I'm going to use the blue one. Because when I prepared this teaching, I was reminded of something you see in movies. When a lady has a flower and goes, she loves me. He loves me. He loves me not. I'm a man. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not. So we do the same thing with God. I honor you. I honor you not. Okay, today I'm in a crisis. I honor you. I choose to honor you. God, things are getting better. I honor you not. I honor you. I honor you not. We don't want you to mess with your family or your marriage. We truly want you to have a balanced, holistic life. But let me tell you, if God doesn't have the place of highest honor in your heart, you won't be able to have a balanced life. It's not possible that you keep sacrificing God for so much stuff. One thing is to have an agenda, to have schedule, and to have space in your schedule for different stuff. And the other is that every time you have to sacrifice something, it's always God's stuff. When I began in this, Josh, in Barranquilla, I was a young man like you, maybe like 5-6 years ago. Remember that to God one day is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years. I remember my wife and I would lead a small group. En esos tiempos, una célula. We were very scientific and anatomical in those times, okay? And a cell group. And I remember that the cell group was on Thursdays. Why do I remember it was on Thursdays? Because I used to be a musician and I love music. I would go to every concert, especially I love jazz. And every jazz concert in the city was Thursday night. All of them. And for I don't know how many years, I couldn't go to a jazz concert because my honor to my God was so high and so fixed that even if I was dying to see that jazz concert, it couldn't compete with God's place in my heart. So when people see me today after all we've gone through, my wife and me, and people that harmed us and hurt us cannot believe we're still here alive and kicking. And that God is using us to raise a new generation and so many changes have happened. And that they see us the happiest we've been in our lives. Because they're bitter and old and bald and wrinkly. They look like old prunes. And I'm young and alive and happy and with all my hair. And with swag and ripped jeans and my Zara shoes and my Batman underwear. I know that no. And they tell me, how have you managed? You managed to still be here and happy. Because for us, God has a fixed value. Things in life and pain and abuse threaten that value. But the fight, the real struggle was not to allow any of that, not even authorities, to take God's value in our hearts and just despise it and bring it down. And even though, yes, we were hurt, we were resented, we were bitter for a time, yes, we were, but His price was still there. So since the price was fixed, even through bitterness, through resentment, through pain, through depression, we were there serving and doing things because His price was fixed. I honor you. I honor you not. I honor you. I honor you not. Honoring God brings honor to our lives. That's something we need to understand. Listen, God's love is unconditional, but His honor to you depends on your honor to Him. That's something people don't differentiate. You see, God's love for me is unconditional. His love remains faithful even though I'm unfaithful. His love is unconditional, and there are some blessings that are unconditional because they don't have to do with me behaving or honoring. They have to do with me being a son or a daughter of the Father. So my children don't have to behave good for me to bless them, to give them food, to give them health, to give them protection. But there are some blessings and some victories in God that depend on my ability to honor Him, because God honors those who honor Him. And honoring doesn't have to do with loving. Honoring has to do with reverence. Honor has to do with respect, with valuing. 1 Samuel 2:30, the second part says, wow, this is a strong scripture. I will honor people who honor me, but, listen to this, bad things will happen to those who refuse to respect me. Oh. I will honor people who honor me, but bad things will happen to those who refuse to respect me. You see, He's not saying, I will do bad things to those who... Bad things will happen. Why? Because when you honor God, there's a blessing of protection over your life. Wow.